Hi, everyone. It is Monday, March 23rd. Our lesson for today is going to revolve around how God comes into our lives and helps to clean up messes. Now, when I think about cleaning up messes, I'm like most Americans. I love gadgets and I love the things that clean up after me automatically so I don't have to. I always dream of having a robot that just comes around and with a broom and a hose or a mop or whatever I need in order just to clean up my messes so I don't have to do it for it. Now I notice that, and I'm aware and self-aware enough to know that if that were to really happen, well, I would probably build some pretty bad habits about leaving messes behind me. And we all know what happens when we don't clean up after ourselves. Well, some pretty bad and awful smells will result. I think we have to keep that in mind when we think about how God interacts with us and our families and our relationships and the kind of messes that we make. God's not interested in just cleaning up our messes so that we can develop bad, sinful, destructive habits. And I'm not talking just about the overtly destructive habits like abuse and alcoholism and addiction. But I think there are so many messes that are created by the subtly destructive sins, the things that we don't see, just how much they're tearing apart our lives. Indifference or subtle unconscious racism or prejudice, or just the jealous ways that we sometimes treat one another. Oftentimes, sin, if almost always when sin is left unaccounted for, uncontrolled, or just unattended, it reaps awful, smelly destruction in our lives. So God isn't interested in just cleaning up our messes so that we can create bigger ones or that we can create bad habits. But God is interested in coming into our lives and transforming, changing us so that we can be the better people that we were created to be, so that we can glorify God and God's blessings can be shared with others. Our story for today comes from the Old Testament, and it's the story of Abraham. And if you remember Abraham, he is a person that is regarded as being one of the great people of faith. He did tremendous things for God's kingdom. He's an example that's always lifted up. Now, I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. Abraham had his good moments, but he also had his bad moments where he didn't trust God, and he created some pretty bad messes. But before we look about those bad moments, let's look at just a good story about Abraham. Let's start things off that way. Abraham was a man who God approached him and said, "Hey, I want you to get up. I want you to walk across the desert, take your family and your all of everybody who's with you, your extended family, all your servants, all your possessions, pack everything up, and I want you to walk across the desert and I want you to settle into a new land. A land that you're not going to get right away, but I want you to live there. It's a land that I'm going to put aside for your descendants. Um, I want you to do this for me. And if you do this, I will bless you. In fact, my blessing will be so profound that anybody who's close by you will be blessed. You will be a blessing to others, God says. Anybody that's around you will be blessed, but also anybody that you cut out of your life, well, they're going to be cursed. They're going to suffer because of your choices. That's how powerful my blessings are. And so Abraham gets up and he goes and he doesn't think about himself. He actually thinks about his nephews, his extended family, the people who work with him. He takes all of them with him and he says, just trust me as I trust God. And he goes and he moves. He gives up everything he knew, his security, his livelihood, his home, all just because of a promise for God. This is what Abraham knew. He knew that if he just trusted God, things would be okay. And although things would be difficult, he would still be blessed and he would have the opportunity to be a blessing to other people. Right now, you and I, we are cooped up probably. We are having to spend a lot more time with our family. Maybe some of us are spending a lot more time alone if we live alone. Our lives have been changed and there's lots of unknowns, there's lots of uncertainties. Our economy seems to be crashing all around us. Our livelihood seems to be threatened. There's a lot of unknowns, and we don't know where we're going and how we're going to live. But we still have the same blessing, the same kind of promise. It's a little different that God gave Abraham. You see, God has said to us, if you go to a place where you are now, I will be with you always, and I'm going to bless you. And my blessings, they're so powerful that you will be a blessing to other people. I think that even though our lives are being restricted right now, we have to think of our lives as still being a blessing for others. That doesn't stop just because we can't have close touch contact with people. we can still look out for one another. We can still be aware of one another. We can still have patience. And we can still think that God is bringing God's blessings into our lives. And that's one of the primary ways that God's going to, clean up after us by helping us to see how powerful God's blessings are and getting our attention and understanding that the only thing that holds back God's blessings from being unleashed in our lives is our own sin, our own choices, our own beliefs, our own subconscious and conscious ideas and prejudices and actions towards one another and towards ourselves. Too often as Americans, we think this is just about me. Life is just surrounded by me. My choices are just about me, but our choices are never just about ourselves. So think about this throughout this week as we try, and we're going to look at different stories in Abraham's life and the life of all of his descendants and how they kept making messes. And what did God do? How did God help to clean up those messes? But first and foremost, it's for us realizing that our life is meant to be a blessing for us and for ourselves. And if we trust God and we trust God's presence in our lives, and we take seriously what sin does and how sin destroys us, then our lives truly can be a blessing to others. And nothing, no matter what happens all around us, no matter our circumstances, nothing can stop us from being a blessing to the world around us. Amen. Amen. Stay tuned tomorrow. We're going to have another devotion, and we're going to look at some of the bad choices that Abraham might have made and how that created more messes, and then how did God respond to those bad choices. But this first choice was worth pointing out, how much he trusted God, even in times of difficulty and fear. So tomorrow we're going to continue the story. Also, please note that on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock, I'm going to be having a live prayer meeting on Facebook. You'll be able to tune in and listen and interact and request prayers, but also you can request prayers beforehand. Simply email me at pastor@alpinelutheran.com and let me know how I can pray for you. Now, I've made this announcement 2 days running, and so far no one, and I mean no one, has actually shared a prayer request for me. And so that worries me. Either A, no one is out there listening to me, or B, somehow we've lost faith in prayer. So please let me know how I can be praying for you, and check back with us tomorrow for our daily devotion. And Wednesday night, you can check in live on Facebook for our Wednesday evening prayer meeting. Until then, take care, check in on those who are most vulnerable, and watch out for each other. Amen.